Early, just wanted to make sure everything is working. So if you are joining us on live stream through Facebook or YouTube, we will be able to see your comments. But let's start now straight away to this episode and it's not an episode for empowering youth, and it's not even an episode of empowering women. In fact, it's both. Why? Because when we created these shows, the Empowering Youth show is for people who are making a massive difference in empowering and serving youth, but it's also for young people who are amazingly empowering role models themselves. And then the Empowering Women show is for people who are serving vulnerable women, but also for women who are amazing in their own right. And we are so lucky on today's episode because we've got a young woman who is an amazing young person making a massive difference, as well as being an amazing young woman. So that's why we've got both of these titles here. And what I want to do straight away is I want to get into sharing a little bit about my guest, right? So I'm so excited to have her join me today, and I just want you to get a flavour of who is Whitney Clark. And just want you to be clear, I've written a bunch of stuff here, and let me just say this before I start. This is all I could fit in. There's like pages and pages of achievements that this young lady has achieved already. But let me give you the official. She's a system changer. She's a campaigner. She's a speaker. She's a youth consultant and advocate for youth justice, children's social care, and mental health services. So let's go through a list of her achievements already so far. She is the co-chair of an advisory group at King's College London, which is about PPIE. That's patient and public involvement and engagement. Right? Hello to Emily Higgins, who's joined us. We see you. And the next thing I want to share about her is she's an ambassador for the Youth Justice Board and the Youth Action Network. For those of you who are not familiar with what these are, in the UK, these are our criminal justice and also about young people's work. So she's an ambassador for those two amazing bodies. She's a panel member at the Children's Rights Inquiry. And it's like I'm just sort of reeling them off, but I just want you to get a flavour. She was invited to be at the Royal Garden Party at Buckingham Palace just to honour the work that she's already done. And also she is, let me make sure I get this here, as a speaker, she's already spoken at 10 Downing Street. She's spoken at the European Roundtable in Parliament. She's spoken at Oxford University. And if I recall it correct, it was to a delegate of people from Stanford University. And the other part is there's so much more to, I'm trying to get it all up on here, forgive me. She's a judge for the Criminal Justice Alliance Awards. She's also been a presenter on the Development Day for the Chief Inspector of Prisons. And when it comes to media, she is a contributor to development of government report. But this is the one that I want you to realise. She's presented on Radio 4, but she is the star of a BBC short documentary about her own life and her journey. And that's what we're going to be getting into very shortly as I bring her on. But there is another thing that I want to share about what she's achieved. We are so proud to say she is also a coach at the Harry Singha Foundation Youth Leadership Summit. And the last thing I want to say about her before I bring her on is when I listed all of these achievements, and like I said before, that's not all of her achievements. There are more. But the most amazing thing is she's still only 22 years old. She's 22 years old, but even more amazing and more relevant for me when I talk about authenticity and consistency. I want everybody to be clear that Whitney is a care leaver and she's an ex-offender. And you're going to get to meet her now. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her in and let's just check. Whitney, you there?
I'm here. Hey, Harry, how are you doing?
I'm absolutely blessed to have you with us. And you know what, it's really exciting when we can do an empowering youth and an empowering women's show. Now, Whitney, I've given people a list of amazing things that you've already achieved, and I did it deliberately because the way I want to do it is I want people to hear your journey, because all of these amazing things that you're doing right now, people are like, oh, it's amazing, and she's so lucky, what's she doing? And she's like, I want people to understand who Whitney is. So we're going to do it in 3 parts. We're going to hear about your journey, then we'll talk a little bit about what you do now, and then at the end I want to make sure that all that knowledge and experience that you've got, let's give the viewers and the listeners something valuable in relation to mental health, especially for young people. So Whitney, please do go ahead and give us a little bit of an oversight of your journey so far. And I always love hearing it, but I want to make sure that the people that are joining us, some people are joining us live and I'll bring their messages, but really go ahead and please do share what's been your journey so far.
Wow. I suppose you could say I was born into this. So you could say it started 22 years ago. I was born into chaos. I was born into abuse, neglect, loss, poverty. Everything that a child should never witness, I was born into. And I believe I was, born into failure. In accordance to society, people will always stigmatize those that come from disadvantaged backgrounds and automatically put them in a place where, it's so much harder to achieve stuff because of where you come from, who you are, who you're born into. And, I came from a single mom. I'm one of 8 siblings and I am a twin as well. So, my family is massive and it wasn't easy growing up, And so when I was like 4, I was, abused up until I went into care when I was 8 years old. And throughout my life, I was a protector. I protected everyone. I wanted the best for everyone. Like I would never, do anything for myself in order to go anywhere, because I always wanted to put myself in a position where I didn't want to put anyone else, at harm or based on something that I had done. So I grew up protecting my mum through and through. Like I would never do her wrong, no matter how much she done me wrong. I stuck by her and helped her and pretty much co-parented my siblings to a certain degree. And when I was 8, I wrote my first ever suicide note. And I still, remember that title. And the title of my letter was The Sad Day. And I wrote it because I was being bullied. My siblings had just been taken into care. And every single night, I would cry myself to sleep holding each one of my siblings' belongings. And I would do that every single night. And I was just, confused about who I was without what I thought was normal, what I grew up thinking was normal, because that was all I ever knew. Chaos was my normal. And then I was excluded from school. At the age of 8, I went to a pupil referral unit. And I don't think anyone really got who I was, why I was so angry, why I resented people, why I didn't trust people. And it was all blamed on my circumstance and what had happened to me or what was wrong with me. And it was always, you're so naughty, or you can't sit still, or we don't want to deal with you. Like, we don't have the time for you. Like, no one ever had the time for me, based on I was too complex. No one really knew what to do with me. And I felt like it was a bit of a blame game. Like, no one wanted to investigate any of my, symptoms that I was displaying in behavior or language or my intellectual ability. When I was 11, I had the cognitive ability of an 8-year-old. And it's quite surprising now that I've managed to catch up so quickly. And it was them sort of things that, really stuck with me. And going through school and suffering like with mental health, and not really realizing why, but knowing that I was different. But no one ever helped me. No one thought, oh, this could be. They just ripped me off right from the day dot. Like every time I was excluded, I went to another school or I was passed to another social worker, and it was always, let's blame the next person, let's pass her on to the next person. And it was like a chain of people that just, was waiting in line for me to be passed to. And that was like a consistent thing throughout my life, just being passed around. And then when I was, 12, I went back home to my mum. So I took social services to court. And me and my sister was actually the youngest in the UK at the time to ever do this. And we went back
What did you
home, but
do? Why did you take social services court?
because for so long, um, I thought what I wanted in life or where I wanted to be, which was ultimately at home, was the best decision because that's all I ever knew. And situation that I knew was better than being somewhere that I didn't know what was going to happen. It was unpredictable. I had no control over it. I was, told where to go, what to do. Um, and yeah, me and my sister literally were inseparable. We slept together. We ate the same amount of food. We would sit on the same chair. We would speak at the same time. Like we would do literally everything together. And I look at photos now, and I can see the pain in our eyes at the time and not realizing actually how much my life had affected me up until that point. Yet the one thing that had ruined our life was the place that we wanted to be. And I think that says a lot because when you see children, arguing against the system, when everybody else around them knows that that's the wrong thing that they should be doing, but because that's all you know, it's so hard as a child to be vulnerable. And we all talk about resilience in young people and how much of a good skill it is and how young people are so resilient. And I look at it a completely different way because I was forced to be resilient at such a young age. I don't feel like it should be something that's forced upon people, but more so, learned along the way. And I never had that opportunity, I never had the opportunity to have a childhood to really express who I was, to really form an identity based on, the normal development that children should have, because I had to be an adult when I shouldn't have been. Um,
And I know that at 12, like when you've gone back home, there were still challenges ahead. So give a little bit of a, do share a little bit about what it was like from, from 12 up through to about 15, 16 for you.
yes, so my nan was with cancer. She had terminal cancer, and so I was a carer for her at the time. And I wasn't in school because no school would want me. I was a bit of a mess, I didn't really have anything to look forward to. I didn't really have very much hope. I was I was lost and I was broken, I I had no real support around me. My mum had her own priorities. And it was at that time that I thought, well, what is it am I gonna do? Like I there's no real purpose for me. Um and I was permanently excluded from school. Once I managed to get into school. And I managed about 7 months. And then they were like, no, thank you. So I was first arrested when I was 14, and that was my first ever arrest. And I went into that police station and I was like, oh, this is a bit of a joke. Like I took it as a joke. And growing up, I thought I was the most invincible person ever. Like no one could tell me what to do. No one could speak to me. You know, if you come near me, I was like, who are you? Like, don't come near me. I don't. It was just me, just on a bit of a roll, and I mean, not the right role, but a role.
Sounds very much like
And
the
yeah,
girl I met 9 years ago.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, when we think that, yeah, I've known you for 8, 9 years, it's incredible to think that the girl that you met that wouldn't speak to anyone, that, had search parties out for them and everyone running after me and, not eating and just being a little, like, a little terror. Like, I don't even know if now I would even recognize that person. Um,
Don't worry, if you ever forget, I'll be reminding you. And
I'm
you know
pretty
what it
sure
is?
you will, and so will the rest of the team.
And it's so important that people hear of your journey because, when we share what you do now, it's, having that lived experience, being that little brat of a young teenager that, was there. You knew how people were viewing you, and it's good to hear it from the other side where you're like, resilience being forced upon you, and you're indestructible and you can do whatever you want, yet still care for your mum and your sister and all of this and everything that you were doing. And now, what I want to hear is what changed, what happened when, for you to go through. And I know it never, it didn't just suddenly get better and then that was it. It just got better and better and better. I know it was like a complete up and down journey for you. So now start maybe sharing a little bit about when you started, getting into a place where you're like, oh, something's got to change. What did you try? What did you do? What did you achieve? What were the turning points in your life? From that age of like 13, 14 to where you thought like you've really shifted.
You know what? I don't think there was, or there is one like pivotal moment that made me fully, think, oh, this is what's gonna make my life better. Like this is the moment that I'm gonna change. And I think it was like a collection of things, people, opportunity, and people like investing in me. I think that was the thing that always, stuck with me. The people that took time to talk to me, to find out who I was as a person, and not, that person that wouldn't sit still in a classroom or was getting arrested every week, or, and it's them sorts of people and memories and things that I hold on to more than anything, because they taught me more lessons than any of my mistakes, because ultimately all my mistakes, I can keep doing them. But the people that took the time to sit there and listen and talk to me were the people that, knocked a bit of sense into me. Them little words, like I would walk away and I'd be like, oh, a week later and I'd be like, oh, that now makes sense. Um, and every now and then, even now, like things that you used to say to me, Harry, when I was younger, still comes back to me. Conversations I used to have with the team when I was, running around doing my little business, and that all still sticks with me. And I think it's them sorts of things that, really hit home to me, that people like never before had actually taken the time to invest in who I was and give me opportunities to, progress and see more of who I was and to build my confidence. And don't get me wrong, I mean, my confidence isn't 100%, but it's a work in progress. But, growing up, I had none. I had no self-worth. I had no love for myself. I had absolutely nothing. And along the way, meeting the people and taken opportunities have, you know, like allowed me to build who I really want to be. And I think that all, like, you know, collectively makes
That's
me who
right.
I am today, really.
And that's a great segue into where I want to take it, about who you wanted to be and what you're doing now. You know, on that long list of things that you do, I'm going to ask you in a second to maybe, share a little bit about some of those roles that you take on, some of those experiences. Maybe even that, what happened at 10 Downing Street. All of these things that when people look at you, especially those of them that knew you from way back when, would be like, is that the same person? And I want to take those, but I just want to put this across to everybody that's watching, viewing, listening, that for me, I believed the shift for you was when you went from being a service user, and you're still using services in mental health and all the rest of it, it's to becoming a service provider. And if I translate that in another way, it was like being the victim to being the person who is now helping other people. And it's that element of, I'm the person that's having the work done to, rather than now I can help others. And watching you grow, watching you flourish, watching you serve, and the impact that you're making now is humbling. So I want you to move into now talking a little bit about, the type of work that you do. What do you actually do? I know you're going into, like, your own business now and doing things, which really excites me. But what is it you do still in a day job, and then maybe share one of your highlights for you when you're like really know that you're making a difference in this field of youth crime, youth justice, and even like mental health and care leaders. So go ahead, give us a flavour of what you do, and then share one of those magical moments.
Yeah, so now I am a civil servant working in youth justice. So I've got this job now like a year and a half ago. And before I got this job, I had no job. I was jobless. I was, you know, kind of at a wit's end. I was struggling really badly with my mental health. And I'd just come out of prison. Um, and I didn't have a future. I have 10 criminal convictions that go against me every time I want to apply for a job. Um, and I had, at that time, I kind of just wanted to give up on everything that I had worked so hard for. Because again, one mistake led to me going to prison, or 10 mistakes led me going to prison. But ultimately, like, at the time that I was doing all of that, like, nobody ever really invested into looking at why. Um, and so when I got my job, it was more of a relief that somebody had taken the chance with me. And this job came from me going to number 10. And I went to number 10, and it was a summit around serious youth violence. Um, it was quite a surprise to even be invited, because I'd not long come out of prison. I was still on probation. Um, and I was like, oh, so somebody wants to, listen to me. Mm, I thought them days were long gone. I didn't ever think that anyone would me again because I had messed up. And just to put it into perspective, 2017, I went to Buckingham Palace. 2018, I went to prison. And 2019, I went to, number 10. And then I got my job. So it is an up and down road. It isn't a straightforward road at all. Um, but number 10 was one of the times that I went in there, and I was the only one around the table, that wasn't getting paid to be there. And I thought, this is a make or break moment for me. And I need them to realize, actually, every day, people like myself have to go through, you know, barriers after barriers after barriers. We have to wake up and commit every single day to making change for ourselves and fighting for a place in society, because ultimately as a society we don't believe in rehabilitation. And so every day, even now, you know, I still have to face those questions. I still have to face the backlash of what I'd done when I was younger and growing up and mistakes. But I think that's, yeah, you know, it makes me realise to put in the work, it takes time and effort.
Yeah, it does, and it
And it's
takes
easier,
courage.
you know, to go back.
Yeah, and
Yeah, of course it
just
is.
just for the viewers that aren't necessarily from the UK, number 10 is number 10 Downing Street, and Buckingham Palace is where our Queen lives. And it was, as you were saying it, Whitney, I was like, oh, you was at Her Majesty's Pleasure quite often. So we usually call Her Majesty's Prisons Her Majesty's Pleasure, but it's also Her Majesty's, 10 Downing Street where her Prime Minister lives. So you've had the full hospitality of Her Majesty. And I remember that time. I remember when you suddenly was propelled into this world of people are listening to me, and you found your voice. And I remember you found your voice, and suddenly it was like TV, radio, newspapers, organizations that wanted to hear from you. And I remember one thing distinctly that you had shared was, while everybody was talking about what to do, how to really help people who, having mental health challenges, or their history of convictions was getting in the way. I remember one thing you said, where that mental health provision, I think it was the wish that you had, that you really pushed for, was being able to get help when you need it. Meaning you could have 2 weeks where everything was great, and then one day, bang, and that service is not available. And now, where instead of just bitching and moaning about it, you're now in a position with all the advisory bodies that you're on, the people that you can access, and your journey's still just beginning. And it's just a absolute, honor. I'm really proud of what you've done. So where I want to go to now is, because believe it or not, we're already up into our 30 minutes. I want to leave the viewers, the listeners, and people watching that I know you always say it, by no means are you an expert, but you know a hell of a lot more than most of us when it comes to mental health, the actual experiences. I want to reach out to you, Whitney, and say, what is it you would like to share with the people that are listening, the people that are watching? They could be a young person that's experiencing mental health challenges. They could be someone who loves someone who's experiencing mental health challenges. What is something that Whitney Clark could give them from her own experiences from both sides of the pond? What could you share with them? Go ahead.
I suppose the one thing that I would share is TLC. And I don't mean tender loving care. I mean, you could take it like that if you really want to. But
Tender loving care is a
T,
great strategy, yeah.
yeah, I mean, T stands for time. And, you know, 3 years ago when I was sitting in that prison cell, did I ever think that I would be working within the sector? You know, did I ever think a year ago when I tried to kill myself and was in resus that I would ever still be alive and still be kicking and still be fighting for change? You know, as that kid, did I ever think that things were ever going to get better? And time is one of our most precious assets that we have. You know, it's limitless. Like, we can't ever get it back once we give it. So just hold on is what I would say. Like, you know, time is, you know, our best asset, essentially. Um, L is for love yourself and love your life. And again, like, I, growing up, never believed that anyone would be able to love me, I would ever love myself, that my life was ever worth living, that, you know, my life didn't serve a purpose. And actually, the many of lives that I change, you know, every day just proves that actually, you know, as much as I didn't think that that was possible, just by taking the time to invest in my life and invest in, who I love and the people that love me, really made a difference. Um, and then the last one is C, and that's for choice. Every day I wake up and I have a choice to go back to who I was, go back to the easy life, because it was easy. Every day that I wake up, I have to fight to be in a position that I'm in now and do all the stuff that I do now. And if I don't make the conscious choice every day to wake up and really fight for what I have and fight for who I am and fight for what I believe in, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I guess you always have a choice to better who you are and better the lives of others. And I guess if you can't better yourself, you can't better the lives of others.
So, wow. So there you have it. TLC, not just about tender loving care. We know how amazing that is. I made a note of that. So time being our friend, our asset, and love yourself, love people, and through that process you'll find self-worth and self-purpose. And then that last one, choice. Wow. To remember that we do have a choice. And I know it's sometimes in our darkest moments it feels like there is no choice. So Whitney, that was amazing. I've been popping up some of the messages that people have been sending. So as we wrap up, guys, those of you that are with us live, please do share a message, send some love to Whitney. And Whitney, thank you so much. It's like whenever I do these shows, I'm always like in awe, and even especially if it's someone I know, but I'm always learning something new each time. What's next for Whitney? What's going to be happening over the next couple of years? And then at the end, we want to make sure that people have a link or something that they can follow you with. So what's next?
Yeah, I'm in the process of starting my own business. And that's kind of my focus alongside, I do have a full-time job as well, still trying to push change into the youth justice system. But I guess I'm going to carry on, keep making change and keep pushing and while creating my business. And that's what the next couple of years pretty much really looks like for me.
And you know what? We're glad you're on that journey. And there's a lot of people that would want to follow you, a lot of people that will want to support you on that journey, because remember, we always say help the helpers, knowing that anybody that's helping Whitney is helping people at the cutting edge, the people at the front end of services when it comes to mental health and youth justice. So Whitney, how can people follow you? What's the best way? What's the links that people can use?
Yeah, so probably Twitter is the main source of, so my Twitter is @_Whitney EC or @_Whitney Speaks. And Instagram is @_Whitney Speaks.
Brilliant.
That's probably the best avenue.
Yeah, and we'll put all those links up on the foundation Facebook page and even on the YouTube channel and so on. But I've just seen a message there from my fellow board member at the foundation, from Marie Walker, saying, "Thank you, Whitney. Keep your light shining bright." Thanks for that, Marie. And there's a whole bunch of other messages. I'm just going to pop them up here so I can read them out to you, Whitney. It's from Manuela. "I missed the beginning, but I can tell you're a very strong young woman who's had her breakthroughs." Absolutely. Let's hear from Louise. Louise, who many of you will hear from the Harry Singha Foundation. She's put, "Thank you, Whitney, for sharing and your honesty about your life and how it's not a straight line, but TLC supports you to get up every day, to go and serve and make the impact that you are doing." Absolutely, Louise. Thank you. And then also we got Amelia. So they're all popping up now. Here's Amelia. Whoa, where'd it go? Let's bring it back up. Here we go. "Definitely remember the day I met Whitney. all them years ago, and honestly can say I'm so honoured to know her. Such a positive change. You go, girl. So there you go, Whitney. It's like they're probably going to keep sending that love message. The episode will be on YouTube, and Whitney's also within the Harry Singer Foundation page on Facebook. So please do keep checking in on her journey and championing and supporting her, because, like we say, while we're all serving, we all can do with some TLC, right? So Whitney, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. I'm going to go and wrap it up, right? But I'm sure I'm going to be connecting with you very soon personally, right? Thank you again.
Thank you, Harry.
Okay, so everybody else, I just want to make sure we wrap this episode with how I always want to do it is, if you have any comments for Whitney, please comment. Make sure you like and make sure you share this. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because not all of our episodes are going to be live. They'll be on the YouTube channel, so please do that. And for anybody else, we've got our Instagram, our Facebook, all at Harry Singer Foundation. And then for the website, where you can find out all the information, not just about the shows, but about our live events, the events that we'll be running virtual this year for Youth Leadership Summits and Women's Empowerment Programs. So go to the foundation page, check that out. If you want to donate, that's where you can as well. But also, we are now in the process of taking applications for our charity partners for 2021. So if you know a charity that serves young people or vulnerable women, or you are a person that represents a charity, go and apply. But that's it. Thank you so much, guys. And I look forward to seeing you on another episode of whether it's empowering youth or empowering women or both. Thank you.